the MP for Dover has caused uproar among both parties when she crossed the floor of the House of Commons ahead of Prime Minister's questions. And this is the moment it happened. So can you see just her moving right? It's such an obscure moment. Most Conservative MPs didn't notice. And she goes then and sits behind Keir Starmer. So just by the table. She says she decided to leave the Conservatives as she didn't think Rishi Sunak was sticking to the party's promises from the last election.
In 2019, the Conservatives stood on a manifesto that was very much centre ground. But under Rishi Sunak, they've abandoned the centre ground and broken many election promises. Meanwhile, under Keir Starmer, Labour have changed. And I think that change is going to bring a much better future for our country. And that's why I was so keen to join the Labour Party and play my part in bringing that important future forward.
Now, what's exceptional about this, and these things have happened a bit recently, but not for a quarter of a century in this number. What's exceptional is that nobody knew it was happening until she actually changed position in the House of Commons, with the result that you get Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak facing each other, and suddenly Elphicke appears behind Starmer, and of course he had to use it.
If 1 week a Tory MP who's also a doctor says the Prime Minister can't be trusted with the NHS and joins Labour, and the next week the Tory MP for Dover, on the front line of the small boats crisis, says the Prime Minister cannot be trusted with our borders and joins Labour, what is the point of this failed government staggering on?
Tricky for Sunak. So 2 MPs switching sides recently, Elphicke and then also Dan Poulter, who was the doctor that Keir Starmer referred to. There was another one, Christian Wakeford, who went Tory to Labour in 2022. There hadn't been any other examples for almost 30 years. So it's very dramatic. Let's just talk a little bit more about Natalie Elphicke here. We'll go over to her constituency first with, of course, the White Cliffs in it. So look at the White Cliffs of Dover, think Parliament, and you think Natalie Elphicke here as the MP. And my goodness, she turned the sky dark for Rishi Sunak, didn't she, yesterday? He was probably singing that famous Travis song, Why Does It Always Rain on Me? Because it was a bad old day for the Prime Minister yesterday. But we should look up Natalie here. Let's go onto Google Images here and just see what we find. Because the backstory is interesting. So if you look at the pictures, we'll start with this one here. That was her then husband. That's Charlie. And Charlie Elphicke was caught in a scandal and went to trial. He was the MP before her. The trial heard that he forced himself on 2 young women in similar attacks, kissing them open-mouthed and groping their breasts. In one attack, Charlie Elphicke chased his victim around his home as his 2 children slept upstairs, chanting, "I'm a naughty Tory." The result of that, he goes behind bars, she becomes Dover MP. So that is the history of her and the constituency. And her defection is very controversial, not just for the Conservatives. So on the left of Labour, our old friend Owen Jones, who comes in here a lot, left of Starmer, left of everyone in Labour, says, come on, Starmer supporters, let's hear you cheer Elphicke's track record of refugee bashing, Marcus Rashford bashing, union bashing. What's not to be proud of? He says sarcastically. He points out she supported P&O when they sacked their workers. She voted to make abortion a criminal offence in Northern Ireland. And then he says, and this is the sucker punch really on Starmer, the fact that the modern Labour Party welcomes a right-wing Tory with utterly toxic views says it all. They've got no soul, no principles, no vision, no nothing. They exist just to win power. That's Owen Jones on the party that he's probably closest to. Former Labour leader Neil Kinnock says this, and bear in mind this is a different angle of the Labour Party, quite right-wing in Labour terms. I think we've got to be choosy to a degree about who we allow to join. We're a broad church, but churches have walls. So what is going on here? Here's one theory. She was furious with Sunak when he dislodged Boris Johnson, and she's been waiting. And you've got to think, if she's been like a sleeper agent for Boris Johnson, are there more out there? Because she chose, Albie, a devastating moment, didn't she?
I just think this shows how unprincipled Natalie Elphicke is. Now, Steve Baker, the MP for Wickham, tweeted yesterday, and he's a Tory on the right of the Conservative Party, said, you'd be hard-pressed to find a Conservative MP who was to the right of Natalie Elphicke. You know, this is a right-wing Tory MP. Natalie Elphicke is further right than I am. And the idea that she could join the Labour Party because she was angry about Boris Johnson, I mean, how juvenile if that is the case.
Or revenge.
Well, whatever. But the point is, it shows that she doesn't have any principles whatsoever. And I think this raises quite serious questions for Labour as well. Because how can Labour be such a broad church that it has an MP like Natalie Elphicke, anti-abortion, supports a Rwanda plan, Brexiteer was in the ERG, and so on the one side of the Labour Party, and then you have people like Zara Sultana, who's almost a complete opposite on all of those policies. It just doesn't make sense. Keir Starmer's as unprincipled as Natalie Elphicke, and good luck to them. They
What do you
deserve
think,
each
Nina?
other.
Well, the word loyalty doesn't spring to mind, does it, when you hear all of this? In some ways, it's very unedifying. I don't think it's a case of a late attack of morality. It is playing politics. At the moment, I mentioned rats jumping off a sinking ship. I mean, you couldn't imagine the situation where somebody was suddenly going to cross the House and join the Tory party under these circumstances. I mean, that would just be ludicrous. So at the moment, there are so many Tory members who are standing down at the next election, and she is one of them. And they're
She, as of yesterday, she's one of them.
Yes.
We didn't know. When I heard this story, my first thought is she going to be the Labour candidate in Dover? Because then you'd say she's trying to save her job, but she isn't.
No, she's absolutely not. And people would. And I imagine if you are in the constituency of Dover and you voted for the Conservative Party and Natalie Elphicke, you're not going to put your binoculars down because you're sitting there watching for the boats coming. You're not going to put the things down and suddenly applaud Natalie Elphicke because you think, well, I voted for her. Well, what?
There should be a by-election.
Yeah. So, well,
Or do you think so at this late stage?
No,
Yeah, I just think, as a matter of principle, there should be by-elections when MPs choose to defect to different parties. I said the same when Lee Anderson defected to Reform. I said the same when Christian Wakeford defected to the Labour Party. It's not something which I think can be pointed down to, well, if it's too close to election, you can't. It's a matter of principle.
Well, maybe so, because in the end, it is the case that a lot of people have got their jobs because their constituents have voted for their party, not for them. In fact, probably 95% that's the case, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bill's in Manchester. Do you want to see a by-election in Dover, Bill?
Absolutely. We'll keep Dover for internal imprisonment, I think, when we ever get a decent socialist government. Absolutely, yes. I think it's disgraceful and opportunist. It's one opportunist welcoming another opportunist.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Dover, I need to look up the majority there. You guys probably
12,000.
12,000. So based on polling at the moment, that seat is gone to the Conservatives. So she may have been thinking to herself, I'm never going to be in the House of Commons, so I might as well just deliver one killer blow to Sunak. That's probably what's happening here, do you think?
Yes, I mean, yes, she's an opportunity. She's thinking of herself. She was totally and utterly thinking of herself.
Was she, though?
But,
Was she? Because she's got nothing, as Chris Christopherson sang, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. And she's got nothing left. She's not.
Chris Christopherson, a great socialist.
Exactly.
I don't think so.
But why is she doing it for herself if she's getting nothing out of it?
Well, it could be ego tripping, but she may be looking for a new career. The more she promotes herself, the more she puts herself in the media's mind. The more, we've only got to look at people who gravitated to GB News and appeared on your show and their show. They fell in the pockets as much as they can.
Hello, Bill.
No, well, Albie's at the start of his career. We're talking about people who are sort of mid-term. Well, you mean the likes of, I think you're talking about Matt Hancock, aren't you? That basically fame now is the other way of existing.
Yes, but I mean, at the moment, all the Tory MPs must be looking outside of Parliament and saying, well, where can I go next if I can't?
Yeah.
So they're all feathering their nest in some way.
Well, they are, as somebody, I think it was Charles Walker, who's impressive character MP, said there's nothing so ex as an ex-MP. And he said they're panicking in there now. And we're going to see, I think we'll see more of this, actually. Bill, thank you. But is it right, you're a voter, you're watching at home, is it right if your MP changes party? Well, I was racking my brains on defections, and you were good on this as well. So we had the three recent ones, and then there's been odds, I won't use that phrase, odds and others. Lee Anderson moved from Conservatives. Then there's been Castle Point, Robert Spink a while back, left the Conservatives to go to, I think, UKIP or Reform. Then you go back a long way to the 90s, and we're checking this. There was a guy called is it Alan Howarth or Gerald Howarth?
Howarth rings a bell.
And he went to Blair's Labour just before Labour won. And that was sensational because it hardly ever... And I think he might have been the Stratford MP. We were talking about Stratford earlier. But the thing is, should they be allowed to do it? Gary and Dumfries, what do you reckon?
Morning, Jeremy. Hi, Nina. Hi, Albia.
Hello.
Hey.
Now, basically, they say that political parties are a broad church, Jeremy, which is like the Pope converting to Islam.
It's like the what?
It's like the Pope converting to Islam.
Yeah, well, there comes a point. I mean, I wonder whether Starmer might already be in trouble over this because he's got her sitting behind him wearing her Union Jack scarf, and then suddenly the Labour MPs are saying, hang on, what do we actually believe in here? Because I thought we were against that. So you think it could rebound on him?
No, undoubtedly. Jeremy, to sort of labour the religious point, you've got a far-right Tory MP, former ERG member, having a road to Damascus moment and realising she's been a lifelong socialist. It's got zero credibility, and it says more about Keir Starmer than it does about Natalie Elphicke.
Well, I'm starting to think, just listening to our callers, this could be... Starmer's woken up this morning thinking, I shouldn't have done that.
Well, he's been playing politics, and I think the thing is, if he came next week before Prime Minister's Questions with a third one, you could say, well, we could get rid of all of them before even a general election.
That would be
good fun.
Well, ironically, that's how Boris Johnson fell, is that Sunak resigned and took literally half the government with him. And maybe this is happening to MPs now. We'll see. Gary, thank you so much. Sharon in Staffordshire, what do you think? Should she be allowed to do it?
Okay, good morning, Jeremy. Good
Hi.
morning, Nina and Albie. You're amazing, all of you. Jeremy, do you want my honest opinion?
Yes, if it's polite, yeah.
I think it will be polite, darling, don't worry. I think we should get rid of the whole lot of them. They're all useless, and even I could run this country better than them. And I think even a teacher or even somebody that works in a shop could run the country better than these.
Albie doesn't agree with that.
No, I disagree with that.
Albie? Why not, Albie?
I disagree with that profoundly. You might remember a couple of weeks ago, a chap called Monty Penisar, the cricket player, decided he was going to be the Workers' Party candidate for a particular constituency. I can't remember what it was. He thought he could do a better job as well. Just an ordinary person. Okay, got a profile because he's a cricketer, trying politics. Okay. He then did a terrible broadcast interview on Times Radio, completely embarrassed himself. Just yesterday, he announced that he's standing down as the candidate because he needs to figure out his political beliefs. This whole idea that lots of people have that MPs are bootlickers and they're all in it for themselves and it's so easy so they could just do it themselves. That's not actually true.
Well, they have...
Except,
maybe.
Albie, I'd like to say the state of the country is how you would judge whether the government is competent or not. And the current shower of politicians...
But Sharon wants to get rid of all of them. You want to get rid of all of them, Sharon, right?
Albie, I'm sorry, Albie. They've been in long enough. They're not doing a good job. And I think if we just get rid of all of them completely... We just need to get rid of all of them.
And start with a new lot of MPs.
Yes, a new lot of people that we can trust.
Well, that's what elections are for. Yeah, but Sharon, it may be that we have, after the 650 MPs, after the election, 400 may be different. It may be as many as that.
Absolutely.
Who knows? I don't know. Or, no, you'll have a lot of Labour MPs re-elected, but we'll see. It's interesting. Thank you very much. We've been checking on our defections here, racking our brains. So, Howarth was the name. I think it was Alan Howarth, and he was the same because he was Stratford as well.
Oh, really?
So because that's a very posh Tory seat. The reason I remember is I was a reporter, and I was sent on a Sunday to go up to Stratford to ask the voters there how they felt about having a Labour MP now. Because he said, basically, look, John Major's shot and I want to be with Blair. And the voters were hopping mad about it. I always remember that. And that's 26 years ago. Yeah. So Sylvia in Durham, what do you think? Is it OK to change parties?
No, not at all. I think that she's a Tory lady and she's gone over to Labour. And I wouldn't trust her because she could take information from Labour, pass it on to Conservatives. She's there for one reason only, to save herself because she knows Conservatives are in trouble.
But she's not standing. She's not standing for Parliament. So how does she save herself?
No, I think, well, because I do think that she's trying to keep herself a job. I don't like it. I think it's wrong. And I think Sir Keir Starmer, who I stand by, has totally and utterly let himself down by allowing that to happen.
OK, Sylvia, thank you. Douglas in South Lanarkshire, what do you think? There's a lot of criticism of Starmer here.
Well, What I asked there actually was if the lady, the MP, believes that the Labour Party can run the free market economy better than the Conservatives for the benefit of the people, then she did the right thing.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of, well, yes, although she probably believes that water companies should stay privatised and she probably disagrees with a lot of Labour policies, but we may never get to that point, I guess. This is her day.
Yep. Well, I'd like to see a confrontation between Rachel Reeves and her, because apparently Rachel Reeves made a comment which I can't, telling Natalie to F off.
Yes.
Because of Natalie's
yesterday?
comments. No. Because of Natalie's comments about Marcus Rashford.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Rachel Reeves was not party to the secret of the defection.
But really?
None of them were.
So, Albie, maybe Natalie Elphicke has been through some sort of, I don't know, just a moment of complete chaos, internal crisis.
This is the risk, actually, because I will say, as a Conservative, Keir Starmer's Labour government is not as scary as Jeremy Corbyn's Labour government. It's not even close. And there will be a lot of Conservative voters who might think, like Natalie, well, do you know what? I could vote for Keir Starmer and I wouldn't mind. And that's the risk.
That's
and
right.
maybe the signal's something else.
He just wants that one symbol, yeah.